is better.
Yeah.
You love it.
Yes, I love that.
This is going to be huge.
Non-stop.
Here we go.
This is WFEB 1340 AM, W265DV 100.9 FM Sylacauga, and WDNG 1450 AM, W236CQ 95.1 FM Anniston, 95.1 and 100.9 The Mountain, East Central Alabama's classic station.
The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, no. As it turns out, only one of us is around. Matt's still recovering from surgery. I'll give you an update coming up here in just a couple of moments. And because of technical situations, producer John not available to join us either. So I'm it. I get to do it all. I'm doing the whole radio thing on 95.1 The Mountain, the flagship in East Central Alabama, and I'm doing CRN live on YouTube. So if, something doesn't quite go right, that'll be all on me. But that's okay. We'll make it work. Plenty to get to this morning, by the way, as well. Big, huge news from Formula One. Changes at the top of one of the top F1 teams. Got news on where the Clash is going to be in 2026. Ram is thinking about different ways of finding teams and drivers for their re-debut in the NASCAR next year. And John Force doing interviews. It's good stuff. Talk about it all and more next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
All right, let's get into it. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Steve West. I'm the one. Matt is commenting on CRN Live on YouTube, so if you have the opportunity, feel free to go over there and you can chat back and forth with him. He just got out of surgery. He had the surgery on Monday. Everything did go well. I did go and see him on Monday. Surprisingly, his voice was in really pretty good shape on Monday, but then the aftermath of the surgery, and of course he had thyroid removed, which deals with everything around the throat. So yeah, his voice did go away. And he himself has said doesn't feel strong enough right now to be able to come back and last for 2 full hours. And I fully understand that. So we want him to rest, relax, and recuperate. And that's the important part. But yes, the good news is surgery went well. Everything is fine. And we wish him speedy recovery and a full recovery as well. So we're going to try and do the next 2 hours all by myself. I know I said we, right? Sounds like a dichotomy. But I'm feeling like I'm going to have to be multiple personalities to get through this the whole way. I'll make it work. Yeah, we had technical problems that won't allow producer John to be able to connect in and be a part of it remotely. So that's the way that it goes. All right, let's do the race recap rundown. Last week, Xfinity Series on the streets of Chicago came down to a battle of drivers that we really could have predicted. Moonlighter Shane Van Gisbergen, the up-and-comer Connor Zilich, teammates last week, both of them driving for Junior Motorsports and probably going to be teammates next year with the release pending of Daniel Suarez at the end of the year. Fighting through the failure of his cool suit on a hot Chicago day, SVG able to fend off a late Zilich challenge, kind of ran him wide with a couple of laps to go into turn 1. That was the opening he needed. SVG wins from the pole. Zilich not terrifically happy about settling for second, saying after he didn't realize SVG was going to race him that rough, quote, "I was clear there, just barely on the front straight. I just let him get to my inside. He took advantage of it. Should have been a little more aggressive there. I just thought he was going to race me a little cleaner. I've got to be better and not let that stuff happen. I'll learn from it and move on." Welcome to the big leagues, kid. It's time. Buck up and let's go. Filling out the top 10 in third, Sheldon Creed, then Austin Hill, Nick Sanchez, Jesse Love, Sammy Smith, Sam Mayer, Austin Green, and Brennan Poole. Justin Allgaier, Austin Hill remain your top seeds. They got 3 wins each. Connor Zilich sits at 2 and a win each for Jesse Love, Brandon Jones, Nick Sanchez, Sammy Smith. They're all locked into the playoffs. 7 of the dozen playoff spots spoken for. The others are held by those in on points. Sam Mayer, Carson Kvapil, Sheldon Creed, Jeb Burton, Taylor Gray. The 12th and final slot still not locked down by any stretch. Gray has an 8-point lead over Harrison Burton for that final position. Ryan Sieg's only 30 back, so that could all change today at Sonoma. Depends on how good you are on a road course. Formula One got last Sunday's racing underway in Britain. Lando Norris able to grab the lead and ultimately the win for the British car company McLaren. That was a very popular win, obviously, and it continues that team's dream season. Norris is an Australian. He grabbed the lead from the pole sitter Max Verstappen when the rain started to fall shortly after the green was shown. Big lead got wiped out when the safety car was called out due to the rains picking up. Then Norris's teammate Oscar Piastri got penalized for going too slow when preparing for the restart. Got to maintain a minimum speed, man. Norris was able to take control as the conditions began to dry out once again, and he led his teammate Piastri to the finish. Final top 10, Norris, Piastri second. Surprise, Nico Hülkenberg in third. Well, we'll get back to that in the news. Lewis Hamilton was fourth, and Max Verstappen faded to fifth. Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, Fernando Alonso, and George Russell fill out the top 10. Podium finish again. First career top 3 for Nico Hülkenberg. Ends his career beginning streak, which is an all-time F1 record of number of races without getting a podium finish at 239. We've seen longer streaks. For example, think about Michael Waltrip and how many races he had to run before he finally won that fated Daytona 500 in 2001. I know Nico Hülkenberg's glad to have that particular monkey off of his back. With the win, Norris continues to close in, I should say, on the points lead. Easy for me to say. Oscar Piastri currently holds it. He's got 234. Norris is up to 226. Max Verstappen sits at 165. Mathematically, he's alive. 147 for George Russell, 119 for Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton at 103. Then you drop down to Kimi Antonelli with 63, 46 for Alex Albon. Nico Hülkenberg with the third place finish. He jumps up to 37 points. And Esteban Ocon holding on to the top 10 barely. He's in 10th with 23. Weekend results also makes a shake-up at the bottom of the Constructors' Cup standings. McLaren's 1-2 finish now puts their lead over Ferrari at a commanding 460 to 222. And it's only going to get worse from here, I get the feeling. Mercedes is in third with 210. Red Bull is fourth, 172. Believe me, we're going to get back to that in the news. Williams now has 59. Sauber with the surprise top three for Hulkenberg jumps up to 6th. They've now got 41 points on the season. Racing Bulls has 36. Aston Martin tied at that number. Haas F1 with that move drops all the way down to 9th. They are sitting at 29. Then it's Alpine. Scoring points in Britain as well. They jump up to 19. So all of a sudden it's getting a little bit racy down there towards the bottom of the standings. Then we turn to IndyCar. They took to the course at Mid-Ohio. Most expected the domination of Alex Palou and Kyle Kirkwood to continue. Spoiler alert, it didn't. It did look like the race, like it was going to be that way as the race rolled into the final laps. But Palou made kind of an uncharacteristic mistake. And the 6-time IndyCar titleist Scott Dixon, on a mix of great tire strategy and masterful fuel savings, he was able to take advantage. He rolls onto the win. Dixon bests his teammate Palou, who finishes second, then Christian Lundgaard. Colton Herta, Pato Award, Felix Rosenquist, Marcus Armstrong, Kyle Kirkwood could do no better than 8th, trailed by Renus Vika and Kiffin Simpson filling out the top 10. Alex Palou continues to lead the points. He's now up on Kyle Kirkwood by a 430 to 317 margin. So you're saying there's a chance. Pato Award with 305, Scott Dixon up to 282, and Christian Lundgaard with 263. Rookie of the Year standings, Louis Foster has regained his early season form a bit here. He's taken the lead back. He's now up 118 to 113 over Robert Schwartzman, who did not have a good day. Qualified last in the field last weekend. And then Jacob Abel, he's in third. He's got 64 points. Honda continues to have won all of the races in 2025. Yep, it is a Honda shutout so far this year, and therefore their lead in the engine manufacturer standings over Chevrolet expands out to a 915 to 701 gap. For the record, there are 7 races left in the season. Sunday saw the Saturday pole sitter and winner leading the field to green once again. Shane Van Gisbergen grabbed the pole for the Chicago street race, very same race where 2 years ago claimed his first ever Cup Series win. So really not a surprise he was still out front as the laps were winding down. But there was a kid out there who was doing some hard charging at the end. His name, Tyler Reddick. With just over a lap left in the race, however, Cody Ware ran his number 51 into a tire barrier in turn 6. The question became, could the field make it to the white flag before the caution, or would the yellow be shown before the white flag, and that would make the race official, right? Matt and I have long been critics of, especially late in the race, NASCAR officials having a hair trigger finger on that caution button. I'm actually going to give them the credit for not doing it. Because the thing about it is once you see a car go into a tire barrier, and we'll get into this a little bit more in the news, you don't know whether they're going to be able to get that car back out yet because it's just an initial part of it. So they waited. And sure enough, they got the white flag. Caused some people to go, oh, everything's fixed. No, it's not. They gave Cody Ware a chance to be able to try and unbury that car. As it turns out, he wasn't going to be able to. Hindsight's always 20/20, as they say. But I actually think that this was the right move to make. Let him get the opportunity to get the car out. He's sitting in turn 6. It's not like he's in turn 1. If he was in turn 1, I would have understood it. But Cody Ware buried into the tire barrier in turn 6. That's plenty enough time to see if he can't pull that car out. So he ends up getting the white flag, and then shortly after that, as they were making their way through turns 1 and 2, NASCAR couldn't wait any longer. They finally threw the yellow. SVG was able to cross the finish line, get the win, his 3rd career Cup win, 2nd in Chicago, and 2nd of this 2025 season. Here was the final top 10 officially. SVG first, Ty Gibbs second, Tyler Reddick third, then Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Preece with a nice run again inside the top 10, Alex Bowman and Austin Hill. Hill in a 3rd RCR entry. He claims his first ever top 10 in the Cup Series. He's still an Xfinity Series regular, but I get the funny feeling he's about to make his way into the Cup Series. Ross Chastain rounds out the top 10. Not all that happy with him was one Joey Logano. We'll get back to that in the news, too. Here's your winners. These are the guys locked into the playoffs. 3-time winners, still Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell. SVG's now your lone 2-time winner in the Cup Series. Those in on the playoffs with 1 win each are William Byron, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, and Josh Berry. Those who are in on points include Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, and Bubba Wallace. But things continue to tighten up for that spot down there, that 16th and final spot. Wallace has a slim 2-point lead over Priest for that. AJ Allmendinger sitting 43 points back, and he's looking pretty good when you think about the next couple of races here. Dover not necessarily withstanding. This weekend they're at Sonoma, road course. AJ Allmendinger knows how to do that. And coming up here in early August, or coming up here very soon, we got Watkins Glen. He's in pretty good shape. We'll see. I don't know. Kyle Busch not all that far behind either. He's sitting 46, so that all could be made up really kind of within the slate of about a weekend, depending on how things went. This weekend, as we turn our attention to it, it actually will begin with Formula E in action at the Tempelhof course in Berlin. This is the first race of their doubleheader weekend on a 15-turn, 1.46-mile-long course on that old airport grounds. It'll air in some form on CBS. I don't know. They're never clear about it, and I've given up, stopped looking to see exactly where they are. It's actually going to start in about 40 minutes. It's going to start at about 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Front row consists of Mitch Evans on the pole and Oliver Rowland. Later today, it's the turn for the Xfinity Series, going to be out in wine country for the Pit Boss Food Max 250 at Sonoma. Race going to air on the CW and PRN radio starting at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Course is made up in NASCAR form, 12 turns, 1.99 miles long. Very picturesque road course, very beautiful place. I'd love to go see a race out there. By the way, poll yesterday, to nobody's surprise, sitting on the pole, Shane Van Gisbergen. Joining him on the front row, Connor Zellage. I'll let you get over your shock there here. Okay, ready? Let's go. IndyCar gets their only doubleheader weekend of the season underway with the SYNC SYNK 275 at Iowa Speedway. Fox has the TV coverage starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. IRN Network has the radio side. IHRA is this weekend getting the Outlaw Nitro Series underway, their big one of the year. Finals coming up this evening at National Trail Raceway in Hebron, Ohio. Final round starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Yeah, under the lights. Eliminations getting rolling 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. I'm sorry, that's an a.m. Final round starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Central Time. So about already really started. Eliminations will start to roll 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Pro Mod, then Top Fuel. So that's the way. Yeah, I've got my a.m.s and p.m.s mixed up, and that's on me. Tomorrow morning's racing will kick off with Formula E's second half of that doubleheader in Berlin. Same course, same start time, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Once again, somewhere on CBS. I'm sure it's somewhere. Good luck finding it. Second half of the IndyCar doubleheader weekend in Iowa will continue. This is more what we actually know, where we can find it and what time. Farm to Finish 275 on the short track will air on Fox and IRN Radio. Race time starting 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. And then final race of the weekend belongs to the Cup Series. They're going to run the Toyota SafeMart 350 at Sonoma. Same layout as Xfinity later on today. This time, though, it'll air on TNT Sports and PRN Radio. Everything kicks up 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time for race coverage. Craftsman Truck Series, Formula One, NHRA, they are all off this weekend. So we never know what's going to be the biggest story of the week. I mean, that's kind of the surprise of it. I mean, if I knew that from a week-to-week basis, I wouldn't just be doing radio. Might do the California Psychic Hotline. But this news, not expecting it. Not at all. Red Bull making some massive, massive changes. We'll dive into what the change is and what the ramifications are when we come back.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Buttons here, buttons there, buttons everywhere. Welcome back into the show. Steve West flying it solo. Producer John, due to tech problems, not able to join us via CRN Live, so I'm trying to run that. So I wouldn't expect any pictures. Sorry. Usually we have a bunch of them, and I actually had about 23 of them set up for this weekend. Sorry about that. On the second note, Matt not here. Talked about it during the first segment, and if you missed it, you missed a lot already. Successful surgery, but it has affected his voice. His voice is not 100% again, but if you would like to, slide on over to CRN Live on YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. And he is there in the commentary real time, and therefore he is getting his say. And I'll get to catch up on it as we go along. There may be a couple of things we disagree on. I don't know. We'll see. I get the funny feeling we're going to see eye to eye on this whole NASCAR officiating thing, because while I can compliment them for not throwing a yellow immediately because of that crash that Cody Ware had and allowing the field to take the white, they do have a problem if they're going to continue this street course thing. They got a big one, and they're going to have to figure it out. But first, big news for the week. Biggest news of the week, arguably. Red Bull has made their second big change for the 2025 season. Obviously, the first we were highly critical of here on the show when they moved rookie Liam Lawson out of the Red Bull seat after 2 races and slipped him over to Red Bulls, putting Yuki Tsunoda in the other direction up into Red Bull, and that hasn't worked out. I'm just going to say it right now. It didn't work, Red Bull. Congratulations. You screwed up again on this one. Red Bull, if I've got one massive problem with Red Bull, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to hold to it until they stop doing it. They give up on people too quick. You gave this heralded rookie exactly 2 races. That's on you. That's on you. You screwed it up. And here's the thing. Red Bull this year has scored very few points outside of those accumulated by Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has like 90 to 95% of all points. So they decided to change things up again. This time, though, they didn't change the driver lineup. They fired their longtime CEO, Christian Horner. Horner, you think about this. Horner pulled this team up from basically nothingness in the beginnings of when they took over the old Jaguar team. And not only a race-winning organization, a title-winning organization. And in fairly short order. Horner's been the F1 team's CEO since they bought the old Jaguar team and raced their first season back in 2005. For me, this is one of those things, and if you're longtime listeners to this show or longtime viewers on CRN Live, you know both Matt and I are New England Patriots fans. This is as shocking as the Patriots firing Bill Belichick. Or to look at it another way, you look at, and this is obviously hypothetical, this didn't happen in real life, but let's say University of Alabama Crimson Tide wins a national championship under Nick Saban, and the next year after the transfers and a whole bunch of people go into the NFL in the draft, the next year he drops to 8-4 and Alabama goes, you're fired. Red Bull is on a 4-driver title win streak with Max Verstappen, and 3 of those years they've been the Constructors' Cup champion. And this year, yes, they've slipped to 4th in the standings, as I just noted in the recap. But they fired the CEO who has led them through all of this. They kept him through 8 straight years of Mercedes dominating the Constructors' Cup and the drivers' titles. They kept him through that. After they won 4 straight with Sebastian Vettel, remember him? And then here goes Mercedes on that streak as they really dominated the beginnings of this V6 turbocharged era in Formula One. And Christian Horner is able to rebuild that organization, find this kid Max Verstappen, pair him with a couple of different guys, admittedly, most notably Sergio Perez. And suddenly they're back on top. Like I said, Max Verstappen on a 4 championship win streak. And 3 of those years, Red Bull is Constructors' Cup champion. Huh? Now you're going to fire him? This was absolutely Mind-blowing. A team spokesperson said, quote, Red Bull has released Christian Horner from his operational duties with effect from today, which was Wednesday, July 9th. Has appointed Laurent Mekies as CEO of Red Bull Racing, Oliver Mintzlaff, the CEO of Corporate Projects and Investments. He thanked Christian Horner for his exceptional work over the last 20 years. Quoting Mintzlaff, we would like to thank Christian Horner for his exceptional work over the last 20 years. With his tireless commitment, experience, expertise, and innovative thinking, he has been instrumental in establishing Red Bull as one of the most successful and attractive teams in Formula One. Thank you for everything. You will forever remain an important part of our team history. But in the end, we still don't care. You're fired. That's my commentary on the last part of it. So Horner's out. Mekies is in. We'll get to the aftermath of Horner in a minute. Let's kind of get you familiar with what the new formation of Red Bull in. Who is Mekies? Mekies moves up from Racing Bulls to become the Red Bull team CEO. Over at Racing Bulls, they promoted racing director Alan Permain into the role of team principal. All of this is effective as of Wednesday when this news broke. Again, as I noted, the vast majority of the championship points that Red Bull has scored this year belong to Max Verstappen. I told you in the race recap, Red Bull has scored 172 championship points in all. 165 of them have been accumulated by Max Verstappen. Only 7 not accumulated by him. And to Yuki Tsunoda's credit, yes, he has done those 7. But again, you only gave your rookie 2 races. You can't tell me that the young Liam Lawson couldn't have at least equaled what Yuki Tsunoda did. The car's that good. And Liam Lawson has actually scored championship points in the Racing Bulls ride. Not many, but he has. Think about it for a minute. Under Christian Horner, considering the fact that this happened after last weekend's race, and they're not racing this weekend. So going into the next race, which will be next week, in Red Bull's history, they have racked up 287 podium finishes, 124 race wins, 107 pole positions, 100 fastest laps, 8 driver titles, 4 each for Sebastian Vettel and Verstappen, as I noted, 6 Constructors' Cup titles, and all of that was done in a grand total of 406 race starts. And you're fired. Because, again, they fall into 4th in the Constructors' Cup standings behind McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes. They trail Mercedes for 3rd place by 38 points. And you're relying on Max Verstappen because you can't figure out what to do with that second seat. A whole lot of other people chimed in on the surprising midseason move. Amongst them, somebody who might have maybe a little bit too much power within the halls of Red Bull. Red Bull Motorsport Advisor, Helmut Marko. Marko said in the aftermath of this that he believes that they're still in the running for another Verstappen driver's title. He said this, quote, there are still 12 races to go. We will continue to fight for the driver's championship as long as it's mathematically possible. It is mathematically possible, but I don't see it. I'm not seeing it out of Red Bull. I'm not necessarily seeing it out of Max Verstappen. And there's a lot of speculation as to why this move was made, because you got to think about it. There's a whole lot of rumors out there, and we don't generally play a whole lot with rumors and speculation. But in this case, we're going to, because this may be part of the reason why Red Bull got rid of Christian Horner. And it all has everything to do with Max Verstappen and them trying to keep Max Verstappen. Because apparently, from everything that's being heard and being reported, Mercedes is putting on a full court press to try and convince Max Verstappen to leave Red Bull and go to Mercedes. Do I know whose position he's going to take? No, but everyone kind of keeps pointing at George Russell, despite the fact that he's had some success in those cars. I mean, they just have the other kid is a rookie. Mercedes seems more willing to give rookies a chance than Red Bull does. And as it turns out, Max's father, Jos Verstappen, a Formula One champion himself, doesn't like Christian Horner. So speculation, word around the paddock is that Max's dad kind of forced Red Bull's hand and said, hey, if you want to keep my son, that guy got to go. Again, this is all rumor and speculation. Is it true? I don't know. I'm just telling you what's being said in the hallways and in the, around the corners and stuff. If I'm Max Verstappen, I might consider maybe that the grass might be greener on the other side. It might not be. But this is something that he's got to figure out. He's 28, I think, now. I don't have it in front of me. He's still got plenty of years if he wants them. But you see, that's the other side of it. I get that he's a very talented driver. And we all want as talented a driver as we can possibly get if we put ourselves in position of a race team owner or a race team executive. But do you want to bet on a very, very talented driver who has been making a whole lot of noise lately about, you know what, I could walk away from Formula One and really not miss it? Is that what you want? Is that what you're looking for? That you don't basically know from year to year whether or not he's going to be there next year? Or are you looking for something a little more solid, a little more steady? But I'm not in the position of a Formula One team principal or CEO or in the position of hiring drivers. The next driver I hire for any race team will be the first time I hire a driver for any race team. So I honestly can't speak to it that well. But what I do know is this. I probably would think twice before I would hire Max Verstappen. Only because while I know you're a talented driver and you can probably pick up the performance of my team, how long are you really going to be here? And at some point in time, you want some stability and consistency within your organization. Another person who checked in on it, former F1 commercial rights holder Bernie Ecclestone, he said it was probably time for a change. Said Horner probably let his tenure go to his head and was wielding so much power that it allowed him to, as Ecclestone says, get away with so many things. And the funny thing about this is this is a guy who fully admits that he and Horner have been friends for a very long time. If you do a basic internet search for pictures of Bernie Ecclestone, you'd be surprised how many of them actually appear with Christian Horner by his side. How do I know? I did that exercise yesterday. Ecclestone, though, has never been shy about sharing his opinion. Says the writing was on the wall, even though he might have handled it a little bit differently. Said this, quote, "It would probably have been better if they had said, you know what, come on, Christian, sit down. But the bottom line is that there are people out there who thought that he was getting away with things, that he was acting as if it was not the Red Bull ring, but the Christian Horner ring." He's talking about where they were last weekend in Austria. He got away with so many things, and all the time that you're delivering, people close their eyes. But when you stop delivering, people start to look. One or two begin to think, well, I could do a better job. Ecclestone then noted that inside politics at Red Bull said, and knowing that, he said, I know it was suggested to him that he should be a team manager and leave the commercial side to somebody else. His idea was, I'm the chief executive. He had the CEO position. But you get very few executives who can do everything from engineering to public relations. Horner had been running the company the way that he thought it should be run for a long time. But people were prepared to say, okay, fair enough, he's getting the job done. But as soon as you go off a little bit, people start to look, and then they go, hang on, maybe this is wrong direction. Is it? No pressure, Laurent Meckies. Let's see what you can do with it. At least we know he's in that situation. What we don't know is what's next for Christian Horner. Well, we do in the immediate term. Obviously, long-term, a lot of speculation out there. There is the thought Fred Vasseur could be out sooner rather than later over at Scuderia Ferrari, and wouldn't pulling Horner over there be a big coup? Alpine needs help. We'll get back to that. Haas F1 and Cadillac might be able to use a boost as they continue to either languish, Haas F1, or haven't even gotten on the track yet, Cadillac. But both just named team principals recently. And again, we haven't even seen Graham Loudon on the track yet, so we don't know whether or not Cadillac's going to stumble out of the gate or excel out of the gate. So they're going to give Graham Loudon a chance as team principal. And as far as Io Komatsu, he's already done more in a season and a half than we saw out of Gunther Steiner in his final, 3-4 years at Haas F1? So I don't think Gene Haas is going to be making a change anytime too soon, even though this would be a big get for Gene Haas. But the truth of the matter is that either way, Christian Horner's not joining a team until his gardening period, as they put it in Europe. It's what we call sitting out a non-compete clause here in the United States. That gardening period won't allow him to join another team until at least the beginning of 2026. So he has time to figure it out, field phone calls, figure out which offer is going to be best, and start to do negotiations. In the meantime, I would probably expect a Sky Sports or some other media source that's covering F1 to come calling, if they haven't already, and say, hey, want to join us, even if it's just for the rest of the season? I might do it. And it might be the best way for him to transition. He's never been shy about being part of the media. I talked about Sky Sports. It seems like every time Sky Sports asks him to comment, Christian Horner's readily available. So I know that he'd be comfortable on a microphone and in front of a camera. And again, it would give him, I guess the best way to call it is something of a different perspective. Because if you continue to do the same things you've always done, you continue to get the same things you've always gotten, right? And while the results were there, you get comfortable. You go, well, it's always worked in the past. But those other teams catching up to you, right? So maybe now he gets the opportunity to realize, you know what, there are different ways of doing this than the way that I did it for 20 years over at Red Bull. This could be a dangerous, dangerous move for Red Bull to let Christian Horner go, because now he has an incentive to kind of get back at his old team, number one. Number two, to prove that he can do it at another team. And number three, this is a very ignominious way of going out. Nobody wants to go out like that. I mean, I've heard of many, many players who had a down year and said, can I have just one more year because I don't want to go out that way. John Force comes to mind, truth be told. I don't know as I would want necessarily my career to end the way that it did for him. But it looks like, foreshadowing, that his career may have ended that way. And I hate that. And I'm sure that John Force does too. But medical situations take precedence over in that situation. This is just lack of performance, some controversies, which we talked about, some accusations, which he got cleared of, Christian Horner specifically. So what is he capable of? And if he gets that different perspective and starts to see things from a slightly different angle and realize, you know what, I could have done that better. And when I get the opportunity, if and when I get that opportunity, I will do it this way instead of doing it that way all the time. Maybe, just maybe, he becomes that really, really powerful guy again, for better or worse. So we'll see. I'm sure the rumors will start to fly. We might report a few of them. But in the end, I'm willing to wait and see exactly what Christian Horner is prepared to do. And it's going to be an interesting, if somewhat bumpy ride. Probably bumpier, if I were to say so, for Red Bull. Because to change like this in the middle part of the season, sometimes it works, sometimes it's a great spark, other times not.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Real quick before I move on to the next thing, Matt checking in, as I said, on CRN Live on YouTube, and he's got some interesting points. He's got about 5, maybe 6 bullet points that he's been doing in the commentary on the chat, which is going on in real time, and I just wanted to pass it along for our radio brethren because he's got some good points, and some of them I kind of echo, or he kind of echoed me. Pick your choose, doesn't really matter which one said it first, but the point is that we are in kind of lockstep in a lot of ways. Matt said, bullet point number 1, they have an upper management problem. Yeah, I agree. They're in full panic mode because they're acting like a 5-year-old that has had their toys stolen from the other kid at daycare. Bullet point number 2, you got Ford coming in next season. I have to admit, I hadn't even really thought about it in that angle. With Ford coming in, how's Ford looking at this? Ask yourself that question. If you're an executive at Ford, you bought into Red Bull, what was that, a year and a half ago? So about 2 years ago now, right? And you were presuming that you were buying into the Red Bull that was the successful one that was on a heater with Christian Horner. Now Horner's out. Guy from Racing Bulls, Laurent Mekies, who... Bullet point number 4, Mekies hasn't really lit the world on fire with Racing Bulls, so you really need to have gone outside of the organization if you were searching for more stability. It's an interesting point, too. But if you're an executive at Ford, how are you looking at this right now? Got to ask yourself that, very honestly. Bullet point number 3, you released the strongest team principal in the paddock with no apparent reason from what I've seen. So why? Interesting question. Bullet point number 5, the whole problem with this program right now, and we talked about it, I mentioned it, he may have a little bit too much power still inside the hallways, even though he's only listed as the team advisor, Helmut Marko. Within the last 2 years, they have now fired Horner. They've gotten rid of Sergio Perez, who, was he matching Max Verstappen on the track? No. Was he outperforming what Liam Lawson and or Yuki Tsunoda has done so far? By a long shot. Because remember how championship points are scored. Points are scored not by some random number, but by the accumulation of the 2 drivers that are racing for you. And now we're in a situation where of the 172 points scored by Red Bull, 165 of them have been scored by Max Verstappen. The other 7 by Yuki Tsunoda. 7. You can't tell me that Sergio Perez isn't talented enough to have scored at least 100 points by this point in time in the season. Would he be beating Max Verstappen? No, I can't even sit here and say that because I don't believe it. I mean, I could say it, but I'm not going to say something I don't believe. But I think Sergio Perez could have been in triple digits by now. And at that point in time, they become a 265, give or take, point scoring team. And that means they're battling for second, if not in it. And he does note, yeah, there is a valid chance that Max Verstappen could leave at season's end. Because if you're looking at it from the angle of the Ford executive and wondering what the heck is going on over there at Red Bull, what did we buy into? Max Verstappen's on the inside. He knows what's going on inside those hallways. And if he doesn't like it, he gone. Things seem a little bit better over at another team who has been a bottom feeder over the last couple of years, but future looks pretty bright over there. Maybe brighter than their neon green on their cars. Nico Hülkenberg finally got his first career podium or top 3 finish, and again, it only took him 239 races, or just shy of 5,600 days from the day of his first career race to last Sunday to claim the honor. And the funny thing is that Nico Hülkenberg was considered, up until last Sunday, likely the best driver to race that has never claimed a podium. Certainly, they are willing to put him in that argument. This is the situation where, yes, it seems kind of bad for Nico Hülkenberg, but it was even worse for Sauber. This is their first podium finish since the Japanese Grand Prix of 2012. Ow. Hulkenberg said after the race where he started 19th. Think about that for a minute. Started the race 19th, finished 3rd. Quote, what a race. Coming from virtually last, doing it all over again from last weekend. It's pretty surreal, to be honest. I'm not sure how it all happened, but obviously crazy, mixed conditions. It was a survival fight for a lot of the race, but I think we were really on it with the right calls, the right tires, and the right moment. We didn't make any mistakes, and it was incredible. I was in denial until probably the last pit stop, but then I heard that we had gapped Lewis by quite a bit with that one extra lap, and I was like, okay, this is good. We got some breathing space. But then he started catching me quickly, so the pressure was there. An intense race, but we didn't crack. We didn't make mistakes. Obviously, really, really happy with that. I was thinking that he was going to give it all away in front of his home crowd. And I was like, sorry, guys. It's my day also. I had to stick my neck out, and I'm super happy. Yeah, I bet you are. Partying at Sauber may not have ended yet. Even his rookie teammate, Gabriel Bortoleto, noted it. When his teammate finished, he got on the team radio and excitedly said, and I have to edit as I go along, Nico, Gabby, man, you don't know how happy I am for you. You are a legend. Absolutely insane what you did today. Max Verstappen, after the race, also highly complimentary of Hulkenberg in the finish, said that he's always had the talent, just never really had the car. Fittingly, Hulkenberg was voted by the fans as the race's driver of the day. Yeah. I'm sure it was a walk. And if it wasn't, it should have been. Heck, I might put that driver of the year. He may not win a title. He may not win much more than placing 3rd in a race. But to take a Sauber car, which, yes, is going to turn to Audi next year, and I know that they're doing some work on that car in preparation for the Audi switch next year. But in the end, I'm not certain that I really can't call Nico Hulkenberg one of the best drivers of this year, because he took a bottom-feeding car, a car that we have for the last, 4, 5, 6 years, basically just said, you haven't got a chance, folks. And he puts it on the podium. Is it a one-off? Yeah, maybe. But that doesn't stop it from being the accomplishment that it is. It's a really cool story. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem seems to be changing his thoughts. Earlier this year, we talked about him, and he had floated out the idea that maybe the V10 engine could make its way back to Formula One. And he says he's not really totally against bringing back that bigger motor, but he thinks that there might be a bigger problem than he initially thought. But he still wants to bring back a bigger motor. Current engine, as we've said here many times on the show, 1.6-liter V6. Does have turbochargers. The engine before that, though, was a V8. Still making V8s in this world. We were wondering if they were going to go the way of the dodo bird for a little while. Looks like they're ready to make a comeback. And that's what Ben Sulayem is thinking might make a return. And maybe, he says, as soon as 2029. Talking to media after the British Grand Prix, said, quote, the current engine is so complicated, you have no idea. And it's costly. Research and development's reaching about $200 million. The engine's costing approximately $1.8 to $2.1 million. So if we just go straight V8, let's see, many manufacturers produce V8s in their cars. So commercially, it's correct. How much is it? You drop it. The target is more than 50% in everything. You want to drop. He's looking to drop prices for R&D, development, and the engine itself by about 50%. And if you think about the car makers that are out there, and I'll throw Ford in there, since they're coming in, we presume still, you have Audi, you got Mercedes, you got Ferrari. Okay, I can't really call it Aston Martin. I certainly can't say Renault Alpine because they're about ready to become a customer operation. But if you think about those main engine manufacturers, the one that sticks out as they don't have a V8 is Honda. But how hard is it to tack 2 more cylinders onto a V6? And you eliminate the turbocharger. And from everything that I'm hearing, they're talking about ditching the hybrid system. You know, that thing that Indycar just went to this year. They're talking about ditching the hybrid system. And that would be a cost savings. Do they do it? I don't know. It would be a cost and a weight savings as well, because the hybrid system is not a light piece of equipment. As for what Ben Sulayem continued on talking about, he said that there would be weight advantages, plus, let's face it, there's the sound. A V8 sound, race fans love to hear it. Think NASCAR. To us, the V8 is happening. Okay. With the teams now, I'm very optimistic, happy about it. Formula One management, FOM, they're supportive. Teams are realizing this might be the right way, and we need to do it soon. You need about 3 years, so hopefully by about 2029, we have something there. But the fuel's also very expensive, so we have to be careful with that. Transmissions are very expensive. Remember, next year, they're supposed to go to that synthetic race fuel. And at least at the first, I would imagine that's probably expensive. But as you get better at the production of it, those costs tend to come down. If you look at the wall or your entertainment center in your house and you look at that flat screen TV, think about how much those things were when they were first produced. And then think about it now. I can go into any big box store, and I mention it that way only because none of them are sponsoring me. But pick your big box store. I don't care whether it's a membership one or just one that you can walk into as a customer, and go look at a 75-inch TV. If you go 5, 6, 7 years ago, that 75-inch TV was going to cost you minimum $2,500, and a high-end one was probably over $4,000. Now you can get a high-end brand name 75-inch flat screen TV for about $1,000. Synthetic fuels are going to be expensive at the beginning because it is the beginnings of them doing that production. But as they get better and better at the production of it, it starts to cost less and less. And let's face it, again, a V8 engine, it's not that hard to produce one. The vast majority of these manufacturers already have it. Ferrari is so well known for everything from a V12 down to a V8. Mercedes has V8s. This is not that difficult. Audi has had them. I know that Volkswagen could easily produce again a V8. Especially when you consider everything that they got under their hood over there as far as different things that they offer. You got Cadillac coming in. General Motors perfected the small block V8. It's not going to be that hard. And I believe he's right. I believe it is less expensive. But the thing about it is I also tend to think this. This is Ben Sulayem doing his level best to save his presidency. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Because he had more to say. He's talked about not only the V8, but he also talked about the future of the series. He knows that the Concord agreement between the FIA, Formula One, and the teams allows certain things, certain limits on races, for example, 24. But he also knows that this allows 12 teams, 24 cars in all on the starting grid, and he feels that that 24-car total will be achieved. That 12th team will come in, and he seems to think they're going to come out of China. You might be right. I don't know. He said the time is going to come when we feel it's right to open up the expression of interest again. We're not here to upset other teams. I won't just go and do it for the sake of doing it. It has to be worth it for us. The team has to add value to sustaining the business of Formula One. I know we went through that whole argument with Team Andretti and all that stuff. And finally, it just came down to being the Cadillac F1 team. I get that. If you got the money and you can actually field a team and have a plan for a long-term operation, I don't really have a problem with it. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I have no idea why everybody had such a fit that this was Michael Andretti and the Andretti name that was initially leading Andretti Cadillac. I can't figure it out for the life of me. The only thing that I can think of is that Michael Andretti has proven the fact that he is willing to put his money where his mouth is, start up a team, and is not willing to settle for bad performance. He is going to work to figure out how to make that a winning organization. Win races, win titles. That's what he wants. That's what he desires more than anything on the planet. And he's going to find the right people to go and do it. And yeah, that's something of a slap in the face to a guy like Gene Haas. Gene Haas loves racing. I'm not trying to take anything away from what Gene Haas is trying to do over at Haas F1, but he has been doing it in a penny-pinching way, and Michael Andretti was not going to settle for that. And Cadillac wasn't going to settle for it either, because this is a pretty serious investment on the part of Cadillac and General Motors. So there was no way that they were going to settle for it, so it seemed like those two were perfect for each other. But Formula One, in their wisdom, I use that term very loosely for those of you listening on the radio, they decided they didn't want him. Cadillac's still here. And you can't tell me that Michael Andretti isn't off in the shadows looking at him and going, here's what I'd do. But to make a V8, it's not that hard. A straightforward, right up the middle V8. Don't worry about the hybrid system, which adds weight, adds expense. Figure out how to make it work on your synthetic fuel that by then you'll have 3 years of racing under your belt, the 2026, 2027, and 2028 seasons. So you'll have, by and large, perfected your synthetic fuel. Get it to work with that V8 engine. Stick the V8 under the hood. Forget the hybrid. Forget the turbo. Just run a straightforward, naturally aspirated V8. It'll sound good, and it'll cost less. And on top of that, it might, if approved real quick, like by December of this year, save the presidency of Mohammed bin Sulayem. What do I mean by that? Again, his first term is up at the end of this year. He does have a challenger. We talked about it last week on the Big Show. This might be Mohammed bin Sulayem out there grasping at straws, trying to figure out what he can do to save his presidency. That kind of cost savings, that could be attractive enough to actually do it. Is it in enough time?
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in as we officially kick off hour number 2. Still talking Formula One after spending a lot of time talking about that surprise move by Red Bull. And talking about FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem. He mentioned the fact Cadillac's really coming in next year. As for that Cadillac team that's going to make next year's entry list 11 teams and 22 cars, Cadillac's continuing to plow on towards that debut, but the thing about it is we still don't know who's going to be driving for him. According to team principal Graham Loudon, 2 things are confirmed. Number 1, F1 veteran Daniel Ricciardo. He's effectively pulled himself out of the list of possible candidates for a seat, so Daniel Ricciardo ain't going to be it. Loudon says that Ricciardo probably doesn't have any interest of returning to Formula One at all, if ever, So, yeah, those of you thinking Daniel Ricciardo would be great, he would certainly grab headlines, and he's a popular guy here in the United States, even though he's Australian, but no. As for other drivers, he was asked about former Haas F1 driver Mick Schumacher. Loudon said they have indeed been in contact with the youngster, added that they have also talked with former Sauber driver, current Mercedes reserve driver Valtteri Bottas, noted, quote, everyone wants to prove something else again. However, it's not his biggest motivation. He said, quote, I look at that as the biggest motivator. Never look at that as the biggest motivator. Our team is not there as a vehicle for somebody to go out and prove a point. Our team is there to provide a position on the pitch, if you like, for someone to prove what they can do for sure, but it's not the vehicle to show the world to prove a point or whatever. The driver's there to do the best that they can possibly do for their team, and they should be motivated for the team around them as well. So I'm less keen on people who just want to prove a personal point. As for after all those comments, he got pressed a little bit further, noted that he's talked to a whole lot of people, including former Red Bull driver Sergio Perez. He says all options are still open at this time. To me, you're now in a situation where you're halfway through the 2025 year. Forget the season, just the calendar year. You're halfway through it. You got to start winnowing down your list of drivers. It doesn't have to be limited down to 2. Okay, but you have to take this list of drivers that is a page long, and to me, you got to figure out what your top 10 is. And then you start figuring out a date. For me, the target, and this is just me, if I'm in Graham Loudon's position, I'm saying by the time we hit October 1st, I want to be down from 10 to my last 4. If not having figured out who my 2 drivers are by October. I want that set up because I want the time to be able to talk to those drivers and say, let's get familiar with our system. Is the driver the most important aspect of the car? That could be argued. Either way, yes and no. But if you haven't got the right driver behind the wheel, it doesn't matter how good your car is. You put me behind the wheel of a great car, and I'm sorry, you're going to be finishing near the back of the field because I just don't have that kind of talent. I'm not the racer on this show. That's the quiet guy who's chatting on CRN Live on YouTube. So I'm just going to be realistic. I think I'm a half-decent driver. Of course, we all do. We all think we're better than average. But I can be blunt with you and tell you, you stick me in a Formula One car? Sorry, you're a back marker. I'm not going to help you. You don't be in a rush, but at the same point in time, if you've got this many drivers, Graham Loudon, who are that interested in getting onto your team, you should be able to say, these are the drivers that I really want to target. And then here's my second tier and here's my third tier. And start eliminating those as soon as you can and winnowing down that list. That's important for Cadillac. Because even though Haas F1 hasn't lit up the world since they joined, and I'm using them because they're the last brand new team to join. They weren't an evolution of another operation. They were a brand new startup operation. And that's what Cadillac is. So that's the reason I'm using Haas F1. Haas F1 came in and they kind of lit the world on fire. Their first couple of races, they scored points. That's the hurdle that Cadillac's wanting to jump over on the short term. And on the long term, obviously, they want to be a championship winning organization. But on the short term, I'm wanting to come out and light the world on fire like Haas F1 did, but I want to score more points than just in the first couple of races. So that's my target short term. And then you do a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer to the point where maybe your 5-year plan says, I'd like to be in the upper echelon. And if that means you got to change drivers along the way, you certainly look at that depending on who decides to maybe retire or who becomes available. And you get a better option. That's me, though. Maybe I'd be better as a team principal. I don't know. Did you take a real close look at the trophies that were handed out to the top 3 finishers last weekend of the British Grand Prix? I mean, real close. And if you didn't, you missed the fact that all 3 of those trophies, the trophies for the winning team, second place, third place, and the manufacturer, were all made out of Lego. I'm not kidding. Lego has a partnership with Formula One that they were contracted to see if they could replicate the RAC trophy that has been the traditional trophy of the British Grand Prix going all the way back to 1973. Turns out they still got the traditional trophies for first, second, and third place, along with the manufacturer winning trophy, but they got a Lego edition of it as well. The winners and makers trophies were both just shy of 2 feet tall, took over 2,700 Lego bricks to build. The 2 smaller trophies, comprised of white bricks overall, stand just over 16 inches tall. And they also thought about this. They remembered that 2023 incident where Max Verstappen's winning trophy from the Hungarian Grand Prix got damaged in the post-race celebration by Lando Norris, who got, well, a little bit rowdy. So Lego officials took extra care with those, considering that each trophy took about 200 man-hours to build. A company official whose name I'm not going to even try to butcher here on this particular airwave said, quote, the team built and glued them together so we won't have a disaster, maybe some champagne being slammed down and the trophy smashing on the ground. We did our diligence. We made sure that they're not going to fall apart. They're very strong, made of a combination of standard Lego bricks and Lego Technic, which is more of an engineering style of Lego building. It's really strong. You can combine the 2 systems together. It has the spine of Lego Technique running all the way through it, so you can actually lift it. So my question is this. Does the real trophy or the Lego trophy go into the McLaren and Sauber trophy cabinets? Just asking. Racer.com is reporting that the 2 leading candidates for the broadcast rights to Formula One here in the U.S. are its current home, ESPN, and Apple Plus, the streaming service. Previously, it had been reported that the streaming services Amazon and Netflix being the home of Formula One Drive to Survive, had been in on the negotiations, but it appears that they are well behind the curve right now. Apple Plus, relatively new to the game, but the interest has been heightened by the success of their movie, F1 the Movie, produced by Apple Films. Apple at this time does have the rights to show select Major League Baseball games, also has the rights to Major League Soccer regular season and their playoff games. ESPN, of course, has had the broadcast rights here in the U.S. to F1 since 2018. They say they are interested in maintaining their rights as viewership continues to show increases year after year. 2025 numbers, for an example, up 7% over the same point in the season from just last year, 2024. Time will tell. On a brighter note, Williams team principal James Voles has announced that he and his wife Rachel welcomed their second child. Posted a couple of pictures, he and Rachel with the newborn, added a simple message, quote, welcome to the world, little one. Rachel and the baby happy and healthy. As I noted, it's their second child. Their first daughter, Elodie, is 19 months old now. Congratulations to them. Let's turn our attention to the Indycar series here. And before things got underway on track in earnest at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course last weekend, Team Penske announced a couple of new hires. They put Travis Law in the position of the team's competition director, and Jonathan Diagood is named the new Team Penske president. Again, remember, this is the team that's trying to get past the early season controversies and the problems that led to the firings of not just 1, but 3 Team Penske executives. Diagood moves over from the Porsche Penske Motorsport operation, where he led them to the last 2 24 Hours of Daytona wins and a win in this year's 12 Hours of Sebring. Law's been a fixture in the Team Penske sports car arm as well. He started in 2007 as a tire specialist and worked his way up to competition director of Porsche Penske Motorsport. So now they're going to see what they can do with the open wheel side of things at Team Penske. Good luck. Weather. We don't generally talk a whole lot of weather here other than saying, okay, there's a rain delay. Not a rain delay. Weather delays at Iowa Speedway yesterday as we air live on this Saturday morning. The race weekend still on schedule, but kind of compacted. All of the first day action got canceled on Friday due to a storm system that included tornadic activity. Actually seen a couple of pictures that showed what looks to be a funnel cloud behind the grandstands at Iowa Speedway. Now, Iowa, I've been there. It's pretty flat. It's got some kind of slow, small rolling hills, but it is not mountainous by any means like, I don't know, the Appalachian part of the country, certainly not the Rockies. So you get a couple of nice little rolling hills, but it's in the plains. It's a flat state, okay? You get into there, if you're coming out of Illinois, basically you get to the Quad Cities area, then it's corn until you get to Des Moines, and then it's corn until you, just continue to go west. It's a pretty state, but a lot of flat, straight roads and a lot of corn. So I don't know how close the tornadic storm, that funnel cloud, was, but it is ominous looking over the grandstand area and seeing that behind it. So what does that mean? It means ultimately that the on-track action set to begin earlier today than initially planned. In fact, they're probably on the track right now. Start times for the pair of races for this afternoon and tomorrow have not changed. Air times on Fox and IRN radio remain the same. So that's the good news, and we haven't heard of any damage. That's also good news. July 13th of 2024, that was when IndyCar officials released the 2025 race schedule. They ain't doing it this year, considering the fact that this is the 12th. I doubt seriously it's coming out tomorrow. Doug Bowles, the president of Penske Entertainment, talked to Racer.com this week, said, quote, "In my mind, it needs to be before the end of the season. The sooner we can get the schedule out, the better for everyone. It's better for the teams, better for the partners, better for television, better for the fans. But on this side, we're working with promoters, some of which have other events that they've got to work through as well. Plus, we're working with a TV partner in Fox. You want to be in the best TV windows to the extent that we can continue to be on the network versus the cable channels. So we're trying to work through that. So all of this has become quite a puzzle. There's also another major problem that IndyCar has when it comes to finalizing the schedule because several tracks' future is up in the air. Contracts of WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Portland International, the contract with the city of Toronto to run the Streets of Toronto Grand Prix, they're all up for renewal. And another problem for Toronto is scheduling because if they were to do it on the same weekend next year that they did it this year, that's World Cup weekend here in North America. And it is a North American one. It's not just the United States or just Canada. World Cup has said North America, Canada, United States, and Mexico, going north to south, all have games that will be in the World Cup next year, which means Toronto will be a host. So, yeah, got to figure that out, too. Bowles said, quote, "Our intent is to be at all three of those particular races, and I think the promoters would tell you the same thing, so I'd be surprised if we weren't at all three of those markets." And then he talked about what we here on the show have been saying for a while now. 17 races in a year? It's too few. Bowles did say, quote, "We're still targeting 17, but I could see where it could end up at 18. Could also see where it could end up at 16, but the plan is to be at 17. I would really love to hear a long-term goal from Doug Bowles and from Penske Entertainment that said, we're going to expand out our season from 17 and our goals to be at 20. I don't need 36 races from you guys in a year. NASCAR's got that covered. That's fine. I'm not even necessarily looking for 24. I think 20 is a good number. Get you into October. Get you a little longer in the season. Be in the spotlight of the motorsports world and the sports fan. Sports fan, you be a little bit more on the fringe. I get it. But the longer your season is, the more people actually think about you because we've got so many options now in this world when it comes to sports that the longer you're sitting idle and nobody's talking about you, out of sight, out of mind. I get it. There's that phrase that the absence makes the heart grow fonder. I do. I understand that. Or leave them wanting more. But you're taking off from September to March or late February. It's too long.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
You know, and so don't really talk IMSA a whole lot here on the show. And it's not that we don't necessarily want to cover it. It's just they don't make a whole lot of news. Their races are interesting if you get the chance to watch them. Matt and I, a couple of years ago, went down to the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, for example. Had a great time. It was a lot of fun. But we just don't generally talk about it a whole lot. So this actually ought to make you pay a bit of attention, because I am going to talk about IMSA this time around, because there is an aspect where it affects an IndyCar operation and might actually have other tentacles to it. Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing obviously has interests in racing series other than IndyCar, and notably it is the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Challenge Series. They've been fielding BMW racers with factory BMW support since 2009, but that relationship is going to get severed at the end of this year. BMW apparently made the decision to sever those ties, and it leaves them with a decision about whether or not they're going to continue on in that series. That's part of the reason why they severed the connection there. It does also raise questions for Rahal Letterman Lanigan. Reports have them looking at some new paths. In other words, they don't want to shutter that and say, okay, we're just not going to worry about that racing arm and we'll just concentrate on this. They actually want to continue to expand out their interests some in the racing world. Bobby Rahal noted that BMW severed the relationship, said this, quote, "We are obviously disappointed that our racing relationship with BMW is coming to an end after so many years where we've had a lot of success with them. It was a privilege and an honor to represent BMW on the circuits of America and in Canada, but now it's time to move on to new things." So obviously you have to ask the question. The follow-up question is what might those things include? First and foremost, since the basic formation of the team leads to it, find another manufacturer to work with and remain in the IMSA ranks. It's possible. Bobby noted, though, that they are considering expanding out. Maybe joining an Indy Next and having a feeder operation for future drivers. But Rahal also noted that it is possible, seems unlikely, but it is possible that Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing might actually consider fielding a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series team. Rahal said, quote, "We're in discussions with several manufacturers for 2026 and beyond. We have a turnkey team for a manufacturer to step into based upon our successful track record with BMW over these 17 years. It's something to be proud of, something where we want another manufacturer to partner with us and bring us to bear on their behalf. Mike Lanigan and I have talked about LMP2, which is a fantastic class. Indy Next is a series where we could see ourselves racing. I don't know if NASCAR Trucks is where I see us fitting before IMSA or NXT, but never say never." Dodge is over there going, Come on, Rahal Letterman Lanigan. We've got ourselves a team. We've got ourselves a truck. If you want it, we got it." Speaking of NASCAR, Cup Series, short tracks, road courses turn out to be kind of similar in a number of ways. In that specifically, when the race is over, it's really not a surprise to see one driver mad at another. This time, Ross Chastain, Joey Logano. On a restart in lap 64, Austin Cindric locked up his brakes going into turn one, and that caused chaos. He started to bump into the traffic in front of him, and here comes the chain reaction. Kyle Larson, one of those, ended up getting, in turn, bumped into Ross Chastain. Chastain ended up spinning out in front of the 22. Chastain recovered, fired his car quickly, was able to get going in the race. Logano was right in front of him, and apparently Chastain was seeing red. Bumped the 22 car going into turn two. That sent Logano into Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and caused both of those cars to spin out. Logano, predictably, got on the team radio and said things that I can't repeat here. We'll just say he wasn't happy with Ross Chastain. Effectively said that Chastain needed to have the proper information when it came to who caused him to crash. And it is true. But in the heat of the moment, it's hard to differentiate who exactly it was that turned you around. They would have words on pit road after the race as well. Logano said afterward, quote, "He admitted he wrecked me on purpose." He admitted it, which means he should get fined if he admittedly wrecked somebody on purpose. It's not okay. It's typical Ross. He just sees red, does dumb stuff. That's all. That's twice this year on road courses at the end of these things that I've been cost something by Ross. So just get over it. Just over it. Chastain did not make himself available after the race. I didn't hear of any fines either. So there's an interesting part of it. Then we'll get back to the situation with Cody Ware. I was talking about this during the race recap about hour and 10 minutes ago. I wish I could say I'm surprised by this, but this is fairly typical Rick Ware racing stuff. Cody Ware crashing with 2 laps left in the Sunday race in Chicago. But it really, in a lot of ways, not his fault, because his brake rotor blew apart. So he wasn't able to brake properly going into turn 6. Ended up plowing into the tire barrier. NASCAR officials waited over half a minute, 37 seconds, before they showed the caution flag, and that was after the leaders had taken the white flag, meaning the race became official. And I said this during the race recap, and I'm standing by it, because there could have been the initial reaction to go ahead and slam that yellow. But you are at a road course, and based upon the information that we've got, and I'm going to detail it here in a second, I think they did the right thing. But there are things that they need to review here. But I don't think it's exactly what NASCAR is saying that they want to review. Some have been asking why it took them so long. Cup Series director Brad Moran said this week in an appearance on SiriusXM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel, quote, "We'll be reviewing all of this and getting all of our information put together like we always do on Tuesday. Unfortunately, we didn't have the actual footage of the impact from the car getting into the tire barrier, and that is something we're going to have to take back. We're going to have to look at it and see if we do go back to Chicago. We're going to have to look at certain areas of the racetrack and definitely try to improve that situation." He also added that the officials were not able to see the location of the crash themselves. Instead, they were using TV monitors from the TV compound outside of the course. And by the time the crash got noted and delaying the caution in order to give Ware the chance to try and get the car out of the tires and rolling again, Moran said that they threw the caution as soon as they realized that Ware had dropped his window net. Moran then added, if we would have had a shot of Cody's impact there, the caution probably would have come out on impact. But it was thrown immediately when he dropped his window net. We give them the opportunity to pull out of that wreck, but if we would have gotten that first shot, we probably would have known that the car wasn't going to be able to pull out. So that's on us. We're going to have to go back and review it, and if we go back to Chicago, we'll definitely have a different plan. Matt and I have seen this at more than one racetrack. We know where the TV compound is. TV compound is outside of the track. For example, if you're at Talladega and you're sitting in the grandstands, you got to look all the way over the Alabama Gang Superstretch and start looking over about midway between where the mobile homes are parked on the hill behind the Alabama Gang Superstretch and about halfway from there to the airport. That's where the TV compound is. And yes, you're reliant upon cameras at that point in time. And I understand that they are somewhat limited because you're talking about a street course, but that needs to be handled better. I'm not saying that they needed to throw the caution flag immediately, because I think upon the initial impact, it is still very, very hard, very, very difficult to determine whether or not that car is going to get going again. So I think that there should have been a delay. Again, considering he's in turn 6 and they're just now leaders heading into turn 1. Not even. They just came off the final turn heading towards the white flag. So I got no problem with them having delayed the caution. Could they have done it faster? Yes. Should they have had a better opportunity to figure out what exactly happened to Cody Ware? Good God, yes. And that's the problem you've got with any street course. Talked about this last week. You want to have a street course on the schedule? Okay, fine. I don't think this car necessarily lends itself to that, but fine. If that's what you want to do, fine. It's certainly something that you can pick up and you can go to any city around the world, practically, certainly around the United States, that you want to go to that you don't have already a presence in. But you better figure out a way to be able to have everybody's most important eyeballs on those places around the track where things like this don't become a massive problem in the future. So again, I don't have a problem with them having delayed the caution call. My problem is that they have blind spots. And this was year 3. And you still didn't realize that you had blind spots and you needed to fill them? That's on you, NASCAR. That is on you. On a much lighter note, 41 cars attempted to qualify for the race in Chicago, and that meant, of course, one car was going to have to go home because nobody used that little provisional qualifier blah, blah, blah thing. The guy that went home was actually Corey Heim, which was a bit of a surprise because he had a good car. He was trying to get in using a fourth 2311 ride, not 23 by 1. But during qualified, made too many mistakes to recover from, and it actually allowed Catherine Legg to get in, and Legg ended up started the race 33rd. And get this, she brought the Live Fast Motorsports entry, the number 78 car, home in 19th. This marks the first top 20 finish in the Cup Series for a woman in 8 years. You got to go all the way back to when she was racing for the now defunct Stewart-Haas Racing Organization. Of course, it was Danica Patrick who last turned in that kind of result. Legg claimed the finish in only her third Cup Series start, all of them happening with Live Fast Motorsports. And here's the thing, they're a part-time entry, non-chartered. Nobody was expecting this. I actually felt like Catherine Legg probably wasn't going to make the race just because, not because of her talent or lack thereof. She's a very talented driver. The lack of a car. She said of the day's efforts, it feels pretty good to get that monkey off my back. Honestly, I made a couple of mistakes, but it was good. Felt pretty racy out there at the end. Everybody seemed to have damage, complete carnage, but it was just good to get the experience. Congratulations to her. I think it's great. Another mark set over the weekend is one that one SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, is going to try to accomplish again this week. And he's already well on the way. SVG, think about this. SVG claimed the pole for both the Xfinity and the Cup Series races in Chicago and then turned around and claimed the win in both races. That is something that in NASCAR history has only happened one other time. Kyle Busch put his racers on the pole and then claimed the win in both the Xfinity and the Cup Series races at the Brickyard in July of 2016. And it has not happened before that. So congratulations to SVG. And get this. He is, as I said in the recap, on the pole for today's race in Sonoma for the Xfinity Series. And they're going to qualify for the Cup Series race tomorrow at Sonoma later today, which, of course, SVG is also in. So, yes, he could, I don't know whether he will, kind of doubt it, but he could equal that accomplishment again this weekend. 2 weekends in a row? Shoot. Legacy Motor Club has announced an extension to their partnership with Dollar General, going to cover both the 42 and 43 cars of John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones, respectively. The extension is going to run through the 2028 season. Continues a partnership. It started just last year, seeing Legacy MC undergo a leadership change. They're now under the ownership of Jimmy Johnson and Cal Wells III, who is the CEO of the operation. Johnson is now the majority owner. He's not the 100% owner, but he's the majority owner. So I guess they like what they've been seeing. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of like the incremental improvements that they've been making throughout the course of the year, too. They're not biting off more than they can chew. They're just stepping up their performance bit by bit by bit. Don't underestimate Eric Jones. Eric Jones is actually an underrated road course driver. And oh, by the way, Darlington's coming up. He's won that race twice. The Clash set to return to historic Bowman Gray Stadium next year, according to NASCAR officials. This will mark year number 2 for that, to be run at one of their founding facilities. The announcement came down Wednesday, included that Cookouts, the chain of restaurants, going to be continuing as the title sponsor. So this is the latest bit of news that continues to kind of trickle out when it comes to the 2026 NASCAR schedule. Still awaiting when the full schedule is going to come out to know where they're going to go on what weekend. What we do know is this: Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray is going to happen on Sunday, February 1st of next year. And that means that 2 weeks later, February 15th, should be the Daytona 500 because, yes, the Super Bowl next year is right in the middle, February the 8th. At least for now, until the NFL decides to expand out their schedule again, which they're continuing to talk about. Good grief, can we finally stop talking about this? But apparently not. This week's ruling by the judge in the case of 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports against NASCAR. Yeah. This time, the judge's ruling kind of upheld. The two teams might actually be looked at as open teams again here real soon. I say again, for the first time, I guess, in the case of 2311. This was a one-page order from the judge. It was issued on Wednesday, showed the judge denied a hearing requested by the teams about whether or not they could continue to operate as though they had signed the charter agreement. NASCAR went to the appeals court. We talked about this. The appeals court said, you guys didn't sign the charter. Why are we thinking of you as a charter operation, so they kind of overturned the lower judge's ruling that NASCAR had to look at them that way. The judge in this case said, I'm not going to hear it. I'm not going to hear your appeal to the appeal. And that means that the upper court, the appellate rule, stands. It's kind of like going to the Supreme Court. If you happen to get a case that goes all the way up to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court decides we're not going to hear it, it reverts back to whatever the last ruling was. That's this case. This opens the door for NASCAR to effectively revoke the charters and consider all 6 full-time rides from Front Row in 2311 as open cars, and it does have a few repercussions to it. First, it wouldn't guarantee them a start, presuming a race has more than 40 entrants. Doesn't happen much. Daytona 500 and last weekend's race in Chicago have been the only 2 this year. Second, the purse money doled out becomes markedly lower than any money doled out to charter organizations. And then there's this one. Don't forget that rider that Tyler Reddick has in his contract with 2311 that his car must be chartered. The team's lawyer, Jeffrey Kessler, said, quote, "We're disappointed by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals decision to deny our request for a full rehearing. The decision has no bearing on the strength of our antitrust case, which we look forward to presenting at trial. We're committed to racing this season as we continue to fight for more competitive and fair terms for all teams to ensure the future of the sport. We remain fully confident in our case. The trial is set for December the 1st. As of this time, because of the way that their whole wording of this was set, they can't be considered an open car or open cars this weekend at Sonoma or even next weekend at Dover because of this play-out period or whatever you want to call it. But the ruling does open the door for, after Dover, NASCAR to effectively revoke the charters at 2311 in Front Row. Will they? Judging by how this thing is going, I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them at all. But again, I'm not reading tea leaves here and trying to predict the future. I'd be a lot richer than I am right now if I were able to. Some interesting news coming out of the Craftsman Truck Series. Maybe a reality show? I don't know how I feel about that.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Final segment of today's show, kicking off with the Craftsman Truck Series. Another new Craftsman Truck Series team set to join the tour. Greg Van Alst Motorsports. And Greg has been kind of dabbling in the Xfinity and the Truck Series over the last couple of years. We've seen him at Talladega, for example. Says he's about to field a Truck Series operation set to debut at Indianapolis Raceway Park later this month, July 25th. GVA Motorsports going to be based out of Anderson, Indiana. They plan to attempt to qualify for at least 4 races through the end of this year. They're going to use Toyota trucks. They're going to have the number 35 on the side. It will also feature his own personal company, Top Choice Fence, as the primary sponsor in order to give the company some extra exposure while he's looking for other sponsorship to help support the team. He'll enter at IRP. Said he plans to try to qualify for the races at Bristol, Talladega, and Martinsville before the season's out. Maybe more if he can find some sponsorship. Who knows? Van Alst, if you're not overly familiar with him, former CRA ARCA Series champ who runs the occasional top-level NASCAR race, says he's rehired as CRA ARCA Series crew chief, Kevin Shannon, to call the shots for his new Truck Series entry. Also realizes that this is an uphill climb. Quote, "We're not coming into this expecting to set the world on fire right away. We've set some realistic goals for the season. Know that the key is gaining experience and improving each time we hit the track. The more races we run, the stronger the team will become." Good. At least he's not coming in going, yeah, we can win on the first race out. You think? It's a tougher road than you think. Just a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how when they were at Atlanta, Stellantis announced they were going to come back to NASCAR with the Ram brand in the Truck Series next year. They didn't have a team to announce as a partner operation to field their trucks, though. That's why I was talking about Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan a minute ago, and Ram suddenly going, if you want to come to the Truck Series, we got a truck for you. Thing about it is, though, if you're into this sort of thing, Tim Kuniskis, Ram Brand CEO, says this could lead to a new reality show. I'm not big on reality shows, but I get where the attraction is, okay? Kuniskis said that among many ideas being considered is doing a tryout for drivers and filming it for a reality show, apparently with the idea. This idea has the backing of USC CEO Dana White. White says, actually confirmed, he probably would try and get involved in that aspect if they decide to do it. And all of this follows up on the statement Kuniskis made just last month that the Ram brand's going to do things a little bit differently this time around. And if it does happen, according to a report in the Sports Business Journal, that reality show would air later this year or early next, just before the 2026 season would get underway. It would build up hype. I get it. I've just never been all that big in reality shows. Is that just me? Maybe. Just a little bit ago, we were speaking of trophies during F1 News. All tracks in whatever series enjoy making sure that they have some unique trophies. Talladega's got their own. Obviously, there's one of the oldest and most unique ones that's out there. Martinsville's grandfather clock. Clocks have been handed to the winners of all NASCAR-sanctioned races at the historic track since 1964. They were originally made by a company called Ridgeway. The clock company ended up being sold in 2004 to Howard Miller. Miller continues to make the clocks along with some cabinets and other pieces of furniture that he sells. But now he's reporting that the company is about to shut down. Current president and CEO of the company, Howard J. Miller, grandson of the company's founder, said that the business is, quote, unsustainable, unquote. His full statement was this, quote, "Our business has been directly impacted by tariffs that increase the cost of essential components unavailable domestically and driven specialty suppliers out of business, so it makes it unsustainable for us to continue our operations," unquote. Said he'd be willing to talk to anybody who might be interested in buying him out and continuing the company, but he has yet to field a serious offer. He also says that he hasn't got a timeline for the company to actually close its doors, knows that it puts the future of the grandfather clock trophy into something of a question, but he also noted that he's not the only clockmaker in the world, or in the United States for that matter. So any number of other clockmakers could take over the work for Martinsville Speedway if the company, his company specifically, cannot find a new owner. I hate to hear that. Really do. I've never seen one of those up close and personal. I have seen them, obviously, in pictures and in video. I've never seen one of those in person, but I have seen several grandfather clocks up close and personal. They're very intricate, difficult to move and set up, which is why my wife and I, for example, did not take the one that we could have inherited from my grandmother when she passed away. She had a very nice one, but we were just afraid that it was not going to survive the trip. from Western North Carolina down here to the Birmingham, Alabama area. So we didn't move it. It's a very nice clock, and there is no doubt about it. These clocks that they hand out at Martinsville Speedway are extremely nice, and the drivers covet them. So it's a shame that they can't continue with the same company, but I get it. Like you said, Miller said, there are other companies that make them. So we'll see whether or not that tradition does continue. I hope it does. Speaking of closing their doors in Formula E, McLaren has been trying to sell off their FE arm for quite some time now, Formula E operation. But they are reporting that no one person or entity has shown any sincere interest either. They're prepared to just shut the operation down instead of trying to continue on and hope a new party comes out of nowhere to purchase the team and its properties. McLaren has chosen to concentrate their racing efforts in the future on a World Endurance Challenge Series hypercar entry for 2027. They said that they couldn't afford to keep all the race teams they currently field and start that operation up too, so they decided to jettison the Formula E arm. Since then, team principal Ian James has been searching for interested parties to buy it out, but despite some rumors linking different groups, including Hyundai, nothing concrete surfaced. So at this time, the team is slated to end officially in September, and Formula E would then become a 10-team starting grid with 20 cars to start the races when they get back into action coming up in December of this year. We'll see. Hyundai, huh? Okay. And a little bit of drag racing straight line action news. We start off with the legend, John Force. John Force sat down for his first in-depth interviews this week, multiple ones, since he suffered that traumatic brain injury last year at the Virginia Nationals. He talked, for example, to Los Angeles TV station KTLA, and Force basically opened up all the doors. He didn't hide anything. He admitted he is likely, and I hate to hear this, but I understand it, he's likely raced his last. Quote, don't know if the doctors will ever let me drive again. Don't know that I want to. He said that, quote, even if I don't drive and probably won't, I still love the sport. I love the NHRA. I love traveling around the country, going to a new town every week. And I hate giving that up because it's been my whole life since high school. Think about this. Force has devoted his life to drag racing, and now, at the age of 76, with 157 national event wins and 16 titles as a driver to his credit, he has come, he says, to realize some things. He's had time since June of last year to reflect back on his career and his life, noted that his family is even more important now. He said they've basically given him a blatant message, quote, you've got to get well, unquote. On that note, his physical rehabilitation program, he says, is complete, but he does caution, quote, maybe the head never gets well. Equating his status to stick and ball sports injured list, quote, I don't know if a doctor will take me off, but I'm good now. Rehab's in my mind. It's a lot of work, and I was already kind of screwed up as a driver and as a person. People come into John Force Racing, say he hasn't changed much, has he? But that's just the way that I always was. Coffeeed up and wired up. Summed it up. I've been out here 70 years. Kind of a typical Force overstatement. Again, he's 76. His career started in 1977. Not quite 70 years ago. Not when he was 6 years old. When he was asked about the crash in Richmond, he replied simply, I don't remember nothing. He also said he's been asked why he's been racing long past when most racers in pretty much any form of racing have long since retired. He said his message was always, quote, I love driving and it's easy to drive. Recovery's a little bit timely, but I get through it. I really love the NHRA. I love racing with them. I love the fans. Nobody races this long, and that's why I'm the luckiest guy in the world. He also did an interview with CBS reporter Chris Hayes, recapped what he knows and what little he remembers from that fateful June 2024 day in Richmond and the aftermath of it. If you'd like to go check it out, you can go on to NHRA.com, go into the news section, and just scroll down a little bit. You'll see the John Force interview link there, and you'll be able to catch the video of it. It's actually quite eye-opening, no doubt about it. And there's more good news for the IHRA. IHRA officials continue to work their way back from relative anonymity with the help of VP Racing Fuels. They've signed on as the official fuels of the IHRA. The company, founded in Texas in the 1970s, has long been working on fuel blends for racing purposes and helping improve horsepower numbers across several different forms of racing. Their first offering, identified as C12, was so popular locally that founder of VP Racing Fuel, Steve Burns, began the company and started selling regionally and then expanded out nationally, and now he's gone international. It's now a company with more than 300 employees, 5 distributional offices around the United States of America, and they have an international office in Germany. and supports an international dealer network of more than 2,000 and growing, and now they are a presenting sponsor and the official fuels of the IHRA. And again, that just continues their process of growing up and becoming a much more readily apparent organization. And I get it. They're going through some growing pains now. At the early part of this year, we talked about how they grabbed a big name from the NHRA to come over, and he has already left. But it's not stopping them from going out and trying to reestablish themselves as a legitimate competitor to the NHRA, and I hope that it does work for them. So good luck to them. They are running, again, their Street Outlaws, Nitro series this year, or this weekend, I should say, the first one of them. So I wish them all the best, and I hope that it does very, very well. I'm trying to take a look here real quick at the race of what's going on over in Berlin. Let's see if we can catch up on this, and this is just me going online right now and looking at it. It's surprisingly not done yet. They're still under green flag. 2 laps to go, so it's going to end before we're able to get this show done. Mitch Evans is your leader. Pascal Wehrlein third. Eduardo Mortora, the rookie. Taylor Bernard, he's sitting in 4th. Wow, it's been a great year for him. Nick Cassidy rounds out the top 5. So that's your basic Formula E situation. Of course, they're going to run another race tomorrow morning. We'll get you updated on all of that when we come back next weekend here on the big show. And that is when one Matt Nicholson is targeting returning to the show. It's kind of good news there, too. Looking forward to that. I hope he's able to do it. I don't want him to rush. I'm not putting the pressure on him, because I understand this. You know, that surgery, which if you didn't hear it at the very beginning of the show, the surgery happened on Monday of this week. I went by, I talked to him for a couple of minutes, didn't want to take up too much of his time on Monday, but I talked to him for a couple of minutes. He was in good spirits, actually had a pretty good voice. It did go away on him as the week progressed, but it has started to come back slowly. He says it doesn't feel strong enough at this point in time, so he's not willing to go out and really press the issue. I understand that, fully understand it. Do what you got to do, brother, and get better, because we want you back this time next week, if at all possible. But if it's not something that you're able to do, don't press it, okay? And a quick fantasy league update. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done that. Last week at Chicago, Boomslick got the win. Junebug in second. Then Chase in third. Junebug and Chase actually tied. I was in 4th, not that far behind. Boomslick 233. Junebug and Chase with 202 apiece. I had 197. Matt had 149. And Fire Chef had 142. Producer John, he's forgotten to fill out his lineup. Let's take a look at the overall standings here. Junebug's in the lead, 3,508. Boomslick, 3,491. I'm in third at 3,289. Chase is trying to catch me. Chase B99 at 3,055. Matt Nicholson's 5th, 3,048. Fire Chef, 2,927. Producer John at 1,628. Staceman Racing, 1,307. Mr. Plow entered, but has never fielded an entry. So he's in the cellar at 0. That's on you, dude. So there's the update on it. Again, wishing nothing but the best for Matt, and hopefully he'll be back in next week. He was fantastic in the comments. Always love to hear his comments, and look forward to having him being able to voice them on the microphone hopefully next week. Hope everyone has a fantastic week. Don't forget about it, because we are indeed going to bring you another edition of the Crossed Flags podcast coming up probably Tuesday of this week, as we generally have been doing it over the last couple of weeks. Who knows? Shane Van Gisbergen might be able to equate what he did last weekend in Chicago this weekend at Sonoma. That certainly would be a big deal. And, of course, we'll update you on what's going on inside Red Bull and what, if anything, we hear from the now former Red Bull CEO and all the other news that's going on. Thank you very much for checking us out. Tell all your friends about it. We appreciate it. Y'all have a fantastic week. Enjoy the racing. More racing coming up next weekend as well, obviously, as some of the series that were off this weekend will be back in action. It always changes throughout the course of the year. Y'all take care. Have a great week. We'll talk to you Tuesday on Crossed Flags, and next week right here on the big show on our flagship 95.1 The Mountain here in East Central Alabama, and of course, as always, on CRN Live on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Always love the comments and the chats. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
This is where the classics live forever.
Here come the classics.
Keep it coming.
So good.
It's bigger, and bigger is better.